I feel like too often when I'm talking to people about you two, I saw the work and the muscle memory created through practice. One of my favorite things of Davis Cup weeks was because, like, when you're on tour, you're going to practice, you're going to leave. Like, I'm not going to stick around Washington to watch Bob and Mike hit like 4 hours after I practice. Like, that's just not the way the orbit goes. When you're on tour, Davis Cup is a different thing. You're all sharing the same transportation. You have a set block. They're on either right before you or right after you. And I feel like too often you guys get explained away by people who even know tennis as, oh yeah, that's the twin thing. I'm like, it's not the twin. They literally spend 8 hours, like you'll hit a great volley. They go, that's the twin thing. I'm like, I'm sure there's an element of that. And I want you all to define what that is in a second. But I find myself getting mad that it's become a catch-all for your skill set, which is a joke. Like producer Mike, I'll literally watch them. And because they've hit the same ball against each other for so many years, they would go 40 minutes in a practice, like this unspoken thing. One would go up, hit volleys, the other one would go, and it wouldn't be like this. There would be no stop. It was like this ongoing, like rhythmic thing. But like, that's not a twin thing. That's a lifetime of work thing. And I hate that it gets pigeonholed when someone makes a great cross or a great read or sticks a return. Like Mike sticking a return, on break point isn't because Bob's close. It's because he's like the best returner in doubles history. Like, how do you define like the kind of sensory stuff where you know where the person's going to be versus, the skill set built up? Because I find myself wanting to defend the skill set and work more than kind of giving credit to just you two in proximity. Is that nuts?
We were, as you saw our practices, we were crazy intense, right? Like we really pushed each other. We had our practices like clockwork. We'd done them so many times since literally like 3-4 years old. We were working on doubles coming up when guys are mainly focusing on singles. My dad had us doing these doubles drills and hitting for the alleys. And so when we were out there, we were just moving, but we were practicing like we wanted to play. Pretty much like every shot had a consequence. If I missed a shot, Bob would like roll his eyes. Like he expected the best out of me, held the bar so damn high. Like you saw our practices. They're pretty intense. There'd be some blowups, some stuff said, but we were just holding each other to a really high standard, and we just wanted to be the best, man. Like we wanted to play that Davis Cup in the Olympics, and we knew that we had to be the number one team, and we were perfectionists. We hated to lose, and every day in practice, it felt like we were playing matches. So that goes into it, but also the twin dynamic and sharing a womb together and practicing every day together and being in the hotel room playing music together. That whole team chemistry and twin energy, that felt like when we were on the court, it was like one blob of energy. It was like this two-headed monster. We were moving together, covering for each other. There's this kind of unspoken communication where it really did flow well. We were anticipating. I could look at Bob's face and know what he was feeling, where he's going to hit his serve. We didn't really even speak in between points, right? We just used a couple code twin language words, and we like to play quick. But communication was our biggest strength, but it could also be our biggest foe, right? The sibling tension could sometimes surface on the practice court, sometimes in matches. It would bubble up. When you're playing with your brother in high pressure moments, right? You feel like you can say anything to your bro that you wouldn't say to a normal partner. Like I wouldn't say that but your twin, you've shared a room with forever. You share a bank account with, right? Then things are said that are pretty hurtful. I know exactly Bob's weak spots. I know all his insecurities, and I'll drop a little bomb. And sometimes it'll explode. We played our best when we didn't say much, but there were a few moments where it did happen, and we're not proud of it, right? But I think it's normal as brothers. If you're a brother, and especially a twin, you're going to have these moments. And I worked every day with my bro, and it's like you're going to the office, and we're taking it so seriously. So yeah, there are a few, and I know we talked about these in Charlotte, and I know you probably brought us on your podcast to maybe mention a couple of these moments.
Yes, in no uncertain terms, yes, because there's a couple I want to just reference, and then I would like you all to take it wherever you want. There was a guitar situation in London one time. There was someone getting knocked out in Australia, which I only learned about like 6 months ago. And don't spare us details. Tell us kind of when this relationship, which on paper, and you guys have always been so fluent with media, with, you know, you're the first two people out growing the game every week. You guys are like, you know, without knowing these moments of stress, you're like a walking Doublemint commercial, right? It's like these like, you're like a half polo ad, half like, you know, you could sell anything. You could sell, you know, ice to someone in Alaska. But tell us a couple of these stories.
I'll take it back to 06. We hadn't won Wimbledon. The year before, we played Huss Moody in the finals. They were a qualifier team. On paper, that's a gimme. They're the only qualifying team to win Wimbledon. We lost that match. 2 weeks before, we lost the Wimbledon final, or the French Open final. We had break points in the third, didn't get it done. Show up at Wimbledon, just kind of being there a year later after not winning against the qualifier team. There was some tension. The monkey was growing on our back. It was the only one we hadn't won, like I said. We're playing first round on a field court. You know, there's only 20 people on this side of the court, 20 people on the other side of the court. We're in the weeds, and we're playing Jordan Kerr and Amir Delic, a fellow American. We should get this one done in straights and move on. We're down a break, two sets to one, and a break in the fourth, a break in the fifth. We scrape by. We went 11-9 in the fifth. A lot of people would be relieved and happy. We were pissed off, and we're discussing the match in the transportation car going back to the Airbnb, and we're both playing Monday morning quarterback, pointing, and those pointing fingers we turn into shoves, and then now we're swinging at each other. The car's rocking side to side.
In the car in the drive. By the way, don't let me interrupt for too long, but like, you have drivers, this is a volunteer position, right? And so maybe and they're normally like tennis fans, like, you know, you get conversation, and they do us such a service every week. But imagine being like, oh my God, it's gonna be cool. The Bryans are coming. They're the best doubles team in the world. Okay, go, Bob.
So this poor lady, she's scared for her life. The car's going side to side. The car's swerving. Our coach is in the front seat. He's trying to reach back and break it up. Anyway, we get to the house. It's kind of settled down a little bit. We're getting our bags out of the car, and Mike bitch slaps me in the face. And then he takes off running up the stairs. And I just drop my bag. I'm running after him. He grabs the rails of the stairs and mule kicks me off the stairs into the bushes. And I just bounce up like Terminator, and I'm running after him. We run all the way to the third floor. He locks himself in the bathroom. I barely miss him. I'm banging on the door like a scene out of The Shining, and I can't get it. I can't get in. So all I see is this shiny prized possession, his Taylor guitar, and I splintered that thing. That thing, you couldn't take it to a repair shop and put it back together. That thing was toast. But the funny thing is, like 5 minutes later, we're having dinner. And that's the freaky thing about twins. We always say when we see friends, we're like, those are freaks. Or twins, those are freaks. Because we were having dinner 5 minutes later, and I actually realized, damn, we share a bank account. Guitar was half mine, you know? So I just blew up half of my guitar too. But it released a little steam. Like, we would, being the number one team, you know, having those expectations, keeping the bar high in everything we did, it would boil up, and we would let it out, and we're not proud of it of sometimes these ways. But we went on to win the tournament, and we played some of our best tennis because that kind of locked us back in. And we let go of all that stuff from the year before, from the French Open, and then it flowed. So, yeah, I mean, and I know you want to talk about, the time that one of us was knocked out. No one knows that story. We told it at your charity event. I think we had a couple. But
I have a follow-up, and then I want to get to the knockout. But Mike, the hit and run is an interesting play for you because obviously technical volleys, return. You're like the Tim Duncan. Like everything is just kind of perfect. You're just in the position you need to be. You make it look easier than it is. But speed, I'm going with Bob. Did you think you were going to get away with a hit and run?
Looking out for the team. I mean, I knew Bob could have killed me. I saw the look in his eye, and he was coming at me like a bull, and I had to lock the door. And literally, like, he was coming through the door, like, not here comes Johnny, here comes Bobby, right? He's coming through the door, right? But it is weird. Like, we always knew we were a package deal, and these fights get buried pretty quick, and we knew we were always going to stay together, so we would have these blow-ups, and they actually led to greater times, greener pastures. If this happened with like Knowles and Nestor or anyone, they'd never talk again, right? But it's funny. And then, yeah, I mean, the one in 2017, this is probably our biggest of them all, and we've only told this story one time and to a few people at your charity event. And so right now we're going live with it, right? But it was kind of a dark period of our career. We hadn't won a slam for a couple of years. Our chemistry was off.
Producer Mike, can you imagine not winning a slam for a couple of years? What losers.
Our chemistry was fractured, right? Bob was living in Miami. I was in California. Our coach even let us go. Like Macker said, "Hey, you guys are too far gone." He actually fired us. So come on. This is after the Open when, the hopes of winning a slam are gone. You're playing indoors. You don't see the sun for days. We're in Antwerp in a dungeon playing cards. I'm going through a tough personal life event. I'm getting a divorce, right? I'm checking my phone. I'm trying to check for lawyers, but we're playing cards. We like to play cards, and we're playing hearts, $1 a point. Bob's killing me. He's Venmoing me for $1,000 every couple days, and he's the dealer. I see that he kind of bottom dealed me, so I give him a whack on the back of the head, right? And I did that I gave him like maybe 10 love taps during that week because I was stressed, right? And then he looked at me. He's like, "If you ever do that again, I'm gonna knock you out."
So fast forward a couple months. Like Mike said, we're looking for some magic in our careers. We hadn't had it in a couple of years. We grabbed that Babolat racket that you're used to. We're stubborn with this Prince. There's no technology on this Prince racket. We were like, hey, we need a little extra pop. We have the Babolat. We're down in Australia. We only use it for a week. We're playing our first round match, Aussie Open backcourt. A hot day, windy, balls are flying. We're playing two guys we've never heard of. We've heard of them now, but at the time, Nishioka and Fucsovic, we had no clue who these guys were. And we're losing, and balls are getting away. Anyway, Mike has some overheads, doesn't put them away, end up losing the point. And I say, hey, let's put it away next time, jackass. And he hit me on the back of the head again. He gave me one of those taps on the back of the head, and he was behind me. As a reflex, I was triggered. I just turned and I swung. I didn't know where I was swinging, but I caught Mike perfect right in the back of the head, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes. And I'm like, oh God. And I look down, he's just laying there motionless, and I give him a couple shakes, and I don't get anything. And then suddenly his eyes pop wide open like Bob Barker. And he goes, congratulations, you just made Sports Center. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then he wobbles to his chair, gets smelling salts, does this whole song and dance with the trainer. And anyway, we got kind of scared. We're like, oh God, that's never happened. The crowd was actually laughing because they thought it was like a skit, like Mansour Barami. And the only people that weren't laughing was our coach, Macker and this guy, Dave Marshall, they knew the history from Antwerp. They knew what I said to Mike with the card games. They knew Mike was actually out cold. And just like we did, we locked in, we won the match in 3 sets. We go back to the locker room and I'm like, hey, Mike, we got to get our story straight here, man. We're going into a press conference. We expect it to be packed. A couple hundred journalists want to know about the first time that someone's been knocked out on a Grand Slam match. And I'm like, hey, let's just get it straight here. Let's just, say, hey, we faked it, blah, blah, blah. Mike's like, hey, tell him the truth, man. Tell him you sucker punched me. I'm like, I'm going to tell him that, you hit me on the back head. I told you I'd knock you out, and I did. Anyway, we walk slowly to this press conference, and we open the door, and there's 2 people. It's Bill Simon, and no one even knows about it. Federer was losing to Seppi on center court. Every eyeball in that whole site was on Federer. It went unnoticed. I guess the TV didn't really pick it up. Nadia, Mike's current wife, was actually watching her first tennis match at the time. And she was watching it from New York, and she texted my wife, Michelle, back in Florida and said, what just happened there? And Michelle's like, don't worry about it. I get it. Don't worry. I see this every day. So anyway, the only guy that actually had footage of this is this guy, Dusan Vimic, one of our buddies. And he put it to like a boomerang techno beat and had Mike going down, popping back up like a little puppet. But anyway, like Wimbledon in 06, it kind of released this tension. And at 40 years old, we kind of went on a little bit of a resurgence. Finals of Indian Wells, won Miami, won Monte-Carlo, finals of Madrid before I blew my hip out, and we went back to number 1 in the world. But it all started with Mike dropping like a sack of potatoes.
Oh my God, these stories are so.
A little bit of a cheap shot. Yeah, I remember trying to read the menu that night at dinner, and the words were a little fuzzy. I told the waitress to turn on the lights.
Yeah, he had a concussion.
This is we're actually I'm glad you guys are here, because I'm announcing that we're actually, the podcast is over, Mike. This is it. Those stories are peak, and we're not having anyone on ever again.
We don't condone violence. Like these are some low moments, but like we're as close as we've ever been. Like we didn't hold any grudges, but we never fractured. Like we didn't go back to the locker room and, hey, Bob knocked me out. We didn't go talk about this to other players. You see that sometimes in losses and tough matches, the players split up. They go to opposite sides of the locker room and they start talking behind each other's back. We never did that. We always sat right next to each other. We took our lumps and
literally,
literally. But like we played thousands of matches together. It's going to get ugly sometimes.